morning, Yelm High School. We are excited to host our Professionals by Pathway Career Exploration event to help students connect their learning to career opportunities. I'm Nicole Mathis, the Career Center Specialist, and Amy McLean, one of our fabulous teachers, is here with us today. And we are excited to welcome my friend, Carly MacKinnon. She is the Social and Content Manager for the Seattle Seawolves. Seawolves, I gotta get that right. They are our professional rugby team and two-time national champions out of Seattle. She is also the senior communications specialist at Children's Hospital. So she wears a lot of hats. And in addition, she plays for the Women's Seattle Rugby Club they're an elite rugby team. And she also coaches the Girls Loggers, which is a select high school team here in Washington. And before we get rolling, I just want to remind everyone that this is being recorded so future students can benefit from our speakers. And we have about the next 30 minutes to learn about Carly's career field, the educated needed to enter the industry, and what other advice she has for us. And we will also be monitoring questions and answers as we go. So go ahead and take it away.
All right, so let's get started. Carly, I'll have several questions for you throughout your presentation, but I know you prepared something for us. So let's just start off by telling us a little bit. I know Miss Mathis did a great job of kind of summarizing all the hats you wear, but tell us a little bit about kind of what your day-to-day activities look like and what it really looks like being a marketing and communications specialist in sports.
Yeah, so as of July, I'm a full-time remote employee. And so that's actually opened up a lot of opportunity and capacity for me to better manage my day. So my full-time job at Seattle Children's is your standard 9 to 5, lots of virtual meetings, lots of me needing to calendar and prioritize my time efficiently and get my full-time job work done before I can really dip into some of my Seattle Seawolves responsibilities. The team practices in the morning. So for example, I was able to go to practice this morning and kind of get home before my day even starts. So yeah, it's a lot of time management and the communications aspect that I bring to the roles that I fill. It's really important for me to keep my communication skills high with my bosses, my management, my coworkers, all that good stuff. So it's pretty busy, pretty full on, and heading into the season for the Seawolves, it's definitely going to be even busier. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're so happy to have you with us. I know that this is a really big area of interest for our students, both marketing students and our athletes as well. So you mentioned kind of you're getting ready to go into your season. So what does that ramp up look like for you? What are your promotions that you're running right now? And what does that look like? Like how far in advance are you planning these things and what like technical skills are you using throughout that?
Yeah, so the season starts officially March 20th and the guys will hit the road and play Houston, due to the current nature of the pandemic and how that affects athletes and whether states are open or not. We're hoping to be successful on the road for the 6 first games, and then hopefully have some, by May, have enough people vaccinated, healthy, hopefully have more control on the virus than we've had to date, and get some fans in the stands at Starfire Sports May 2nd. So right now, a lot of our efforts are around announcing the players in the actual roster for the 2021 season. We have a lot of players coming in from all over the world. So right now, visa and travel with the pandemic and just in general, getting a working visa can be tough, especially for different countries, which is something I've learned a lot about in this job. It can make things difficult and delay things. So we just had a player from Ireland arrive earlier this week. And so now that he's here, I can kind of get him set to get announced out to the fan base and make it official. So it's a lot of taking things day by day, especially as a startup league, a startup team, as well as with the pandemic going on, things are kind of really day to day. But I'm looking forward to planning a lot of our sponsorship activation, a lot of our social media posts. Once the season starts, the games provide a really nice cadence for me to plan around So I'm looking forward to a bit more planning coming up.
Very cool. And so I see, you know, kind of your role in the day-to-day obviously sounds very fluid, like you do a lot, but for our students, what are your main focuses in this role? You mentioned social media, but I see there's a lot more on that slide. So if you could talk a little to that, that would be great.
Yeah, so I got brought on the first season that the league existed and the team existed, and with my rugby background, both being a player and a coach, as well as having work in social media and experience with that with some of my other jobs, it made me a really easy candidate for the team to pick me up. And so it was kind of a part-time thing. Can you help with the social media? But as things have grown, I've been able to help identify some gaps and needs within the team where I could help fill in, which is one of the benefits if you ever work at a startup, whether it's a sports team or not. I've worked at 2 startups now, both have been in sport. And if you could be a jack of all trades and wear a lot of hats, you're going to add a lot of value, and they're going to keep you around. So it started out as social. I have a bit of graphic design experience. I'm mostly self-taught and taught by my former boss. So that is something I never really anticipated to fall into. And I did not go to school for that. Like, I did not take design classes at Washington State. So, you're never too old to learn a new trick, old dog, new trick. And so graphic design development, to create that content that I then caption and push out on social media, while making sure we're engaging with the fans, teaching them rugby. That's a huge part too. Rugby is a niche sport in the US. So trying to make it something that's approachable, something people want to pay attention to, while still also keeping it high level enough actual rugby for, people who already know the game, such as Miss Mathis. And then the other element is, public relations. So kind of working with King 5 and Como and Q13 and some of these big heavy hitters in the media landscape, which is another new field for me that I've honestly got to learn and add to my resume by just learning how to do it. And I've had some really awesome mentors along the way, and I definitely wouldn't be where I am without them. So it's never too proud to ask for help when you need it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you mentioned you didn't go to school for design, but what was your educational background? Kind of, I heard you say Washington State. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I'm a local Washington kid. I went to Liberty High School, class of 2010, played a lot of soccer growing up. And actually, my freshman year, my half brother, he recommended to me that I look into sport management, and I didn't even know that was a thing. And I thank him often for pushing me in that direction. And so once I heard that there was an actual field, just like you guys mentioned, you had a marketing class, right? I didn't even, I didn't have that or was exposed to that until college myself. So being exposed to that opportunity, I then started looking at schools that had those programs. And so Washington State actually has a wonderful program. I applied to Central, Western, and WSU. I got into WSU. I knew I wanted to go there. That was a no-brainer for their program, which is under the College of Education. So I graduated in 2013 with a degree in sport management and a minor in business. So for sport management at WSU, you can either pick a business or a comms minor. I ironically chose the business one because I thought it was a bit more applicable to different fields. And now I'm actually more in a comms role. So kind of funny how that all worked out. So yeah.
Very cool. I have a question from a student, one of our marketing.
Yeah.
So what parts of the marketing mix and or 4Ps do you use the most? If that's something that's part of your.
Oh, you might
guys?
have to, I was going to say, you guys might have to give me a refresher because it's been a minute since I've actually gone after, used the technical terms. It's more experience based. Once you get into the real world, it's obviously great to learn all these things, but yeah, if someone wants to, if that student doesn't mind reminding me what the 4Ps are, I'd be happy to answer that question accurately. See, never too proud to ask for help. Here I am.
Yes. So I went ahead and answered that and asked if she could go ahead and expand on that. And then once she responds, we can come back to that question.
Cool. No worries. Yeah. And this second part too, if we can definitely keep going with questions, but this next section, because I know Ms. Mathis is driving, this next portion of the presentation is actually the social media and etiquette presentation I give to the team, which I think is also really important for high school students to consider as they get ready to apply for colleges and be aware of their social media presence. So when it's time, I'm happy to walk through.
Perfect segue.
This.
So go ahead and take it away there, and then I'll just kind of, when we're done, if we can finish that follow up, if she responds, we'll do that.
Perfect. That sounds great. So at the beginning of every season, it's part of my job to go over social media etiquette and expectations for the team. So a couple of the things that we go over is the league protocol. So for the Seawolves, Major League Rugby, just like Major League Soccer, Major League Baseball, MLR is our league, and they have some protocols. We have some photography expectations because we have a handful of photographers, which is wonderful for our content kind of album. Talking about social media, giving them some marketing updates whenever we get a chance, and going over some inquiries and talking points. Next slide. So I'm a big quote person, so I like to lead with this with the guys. Here's a couple of our players for lining up for the national anthem, but it's a quote that's by unknown, but if you don't sacrifice for what you want will be the sacrifice. So basically, we're in the middle of taking a sport that's not been professional and making it professional. And so just like I tell the girls that I coach, you have to be a student before you be that athlete. As a student athlete, you have to be professional before you can have the rugby. So really teaching these guys and trying to help them, because it's something I've had to do too, is we have to be professional now. And so we're in this weird transition period. And so reminding them that if, you don't make sacrifices and we make some changes, you might actually, unfortunately, like you could lose your job over it, which is not what anybody wants. Next slide. So obviously, whether you're 16 or you're 26, regardless of age limits, regardless of what you're allowed to do or allowed to consume, we have some pretty hefty protocols and expectations around the guys regarding alcohol, drugs, tobacco, drug paraphernalia, marijuana, and then also anything with comments, videos of sexual nature is a huge no-no, which I would definitely recommend for high school students as well. So unfortunately, that type of, and myself included, I represent the team, even though I'm not an athlete. I could, get myself in trouble if I were to post anything outside of these limits. Next slide. Rugby is a really inclusive sport, and we definitely aim to keep it that way. So, content online that is unsportsmanlike, derogatory, demeaning, threatening, racist, anything like that is a huge, huge no. I think that's almost a bigger offense, towards our fans and the people that we represent than some of the drug and alcohol content. So, no hazing, gambling, discrimination, vandalism, fighting. The stuff you're going to hear in high school, we retell to these adult athletes. Next slide. And then obviously on the rugby side of things, talking about keeping it really professional. So not leaking our team schedule, talking about athletes' injuries or eligibility status, our travel plans, not posting. It's really cool that the guys get to travel to Toronto, Canada, but posting your airline ticket, for example, in your Instagram story, like, let's not give out your full name. Let's not give out, what flight we're going to be on, stuff like that. So, we definitely want the guys showcasing their experience, but we have to be a bit tight on the areas of the information we want to protect. So my suggestions to the team is like, leave the majority of the banter and the playfulness, because that's a huge part of sport and it's so much fun, to their group chat, which is just the team only. Number 2, don't add anyone you don't know on your channels that you want to be private. So Snapchat, WhatsApp, like if you don't know people, and don't add them. And I even tell the guys too, if you want a private profile, make it private. And then when in doubt, they can always ask us, they can ask the team, they can ask me if they need help or start getting some suspicious comments or direct messages. All right. And then there's actually a couple like fake league accounts, obviously with like any starting new product or league, there's a lot of fake accounts out there. So just reminding the guys that they need to tag the right handle, and we want to drive the right traffic to the right to the actual league account, and so not these fake accounts or bots or spam. There's lots of things out there that we all have to consider. And when it comes to our photographers, so we have a team photographer. Her name's Quinn With, and we pay her for photos. So for your yearbook students, your marketing students, right? If you're paying someone for your photos, you get to use them without any credit. So, we have someone, for example, like Rod Marr, who's a Seahawks photographer. He is amazing. And I love anytime he can come out to a game, but we do not pay him. He is a volunteer. So I give him credit on all of our posts for copyright issues. And honestly, just to keep him happy, give credit where it's due, right? Whether if you score the points in a game, or you throw the winning touchdown pass, you would want that credit. So similar concept for our photographers. And we can go down to the social media takeaways. I kind of touched on the photo expectations and that. So big takeaway is, don't let a caption cost you a contract. This is professional rugby. It's not club rugby. And help us grow our reach with our channels. And I want to help them grow theirs. Honestly, the personal athlete brand is much stronger than the team brand. And then the team brand is much stronger than the league brand. So if we can get these guys posting great content, great photos, engaging with fans in a really professional manner, it's just going to help the team brand, and it's going to help the sport grow. But yeah, at the end of the day, if they post something and it's no good, they could get cut from the team. And that's same thing goes with scholarships. If there's any athletes out there, even if you're not an athlete, I was a financial aid. I got heavy financial aid, FAFSA, which is something you might apply for. I found out, my freshman year, if I got caught, drinking under the age or anything like that, a minor in possession, I would lose all of my financial funding from the government to go to school. And I went to school in state for free because of my family situation. So as soon as I found that out, I was like, you know what, that's not worth it. My free education and people supporting me is really important. So, whether it's a professional contract to play rugby for the Seawolves, or your scholarship to go to Central Washington University or UW, you have the rest of your life to make some adult decisions. So, and then regarding inquiries, if any of the guys get, pinged with like, King 5 reaches out or someone reaches out to them, I just tell them, send me an email. We'll work through it together, try and make the most of that opportunity. Their job is to play rugby and be successful and train. It's not necessarily their job to field the inquiries. Obviously, we do expect them to kind of promote the brand and go do interviews and do stuff like that. But I kind of do a lot of the organizing of that. So that way it's the least amount of time away from their actual job. So a couple talking points that we give them when they do go do interviews. Most recently, we did some virtual interviews over Zoom with Q13. The head coach and the player did just like we're doing right now. And that's kind of the day and the age that we are in. So talking about, our upcoming game, when the date and time is, where to buy tickets, if tickets are on sale, or where to watch. This year is going to be a huge year for virtual, and hoping people will tune in from the safety of their home, on their phones, on the computer, on the TV, whatever it might be. Those are kind of the three things we have them ask.
Carly, when the players do interviews like that, do you post it like, hey, watch for so-and-so on Q13? Are you posting that kind of stuff too?
It depends. I'll normally do, with social media, certain channels are better for that than others. So that might be like something I would tweet out and tag Q13 and stuff like that when it's prepped. They had to come get some B-roll on Friday too. So like, for example, we did 2 interviews the week before, then they send out their photographer to grab some footage, then they package it up. And so like, I think that's going to go out Sunday night, for example. So, once I hear that is when it's going to go, that'll normally be something I tweet out, but wouldn't be dedicated to a full post. But what's nice is most news stations will follow up with a link to the interview or the package they put together, and then that would be something I would post. That way people can watch it. I know Sunday night at 10 o'clock is sometimes a little bit late it's late on a school night.
That's what DVR is for, right?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. So then I give them an opportunity to ask the questions, and then, close it out, thanking them for their time. Obviously, I know it's a tedious part of the job, or it can be, but it is important. They are the product, for, when you look at that, McDonald's has their food and we have our rugby players. So they are technically our product. And so we really appreciate their cooperation, and our team is wonderful. Like, I feel really, really fortunate to be working with the group of guys that we've brought here to Seattle. They're all wonderful to work with, and they don't give me too much grief. And it's also my 4th season with the team, so hopefully I've earned a little bit of respect by now too.
Do you ever get guidelines from the sponsors of the team or the major sponsors, like, or expectations of conduct from them, or do they have certain expectations from you to capture their brand in your marketing
Yeah,
and
so
your social media?
they will send through their logo preference. For example, Washington Federal Bank is our new title jersey sponsor this year, and they have a couple logo variations where it's stacked versus, so like a horizontal versus a vertical. So their preference on the graphics is their horizontal stacked. So they sponsor the team, and in return they get some social media activation. They actually have the halftime scorecard. So anytime I post a halftime, whether it's preseason, regular season, post game, or post regular season playoff stuff, it'll be their logo will be on the scorecard. So they do send through preferences for color treatment, spacing around the logo, all that stuff. And then there will be an expectation around, we owe Krusty's Pancakes 10 social media posts throughout the season, for example. Or when we pick our player of the match, we do the alpha back of the match. Virginia Mason, who is our official medical partner, it's the Virginia Mason alpha back of the match. And so, we'll do a back of the match for every game, so that way they know that there's, 18 to 20, depending on how well we do, of those specific activations coming out post game. So yeah, so there is, but they're pretty like straightforward. I think as we continue to grow as a team and become even more professional, I would bet, that the sponsorship activation could become a bit tighter, and all that good stuff. So yeah, more to come.
Do you have a lot of interaction with other team media managers across the MLR?
Yeah, so we have monthly meetings for all the marketing teams from each team. And so it's about an hour and a half. So like today we just announced we have a mouth guard sponsor. So a mouth guard is pretty much our only required safety equipment that's required, whether you're playing club or you're playing professional. Everything else is kind of optional. You might see some guys and girls wearing the scrum caps, for example. And so the league pushed that out today, that O-Pro mouth guard is our preferred mouth guard. And so all the teams are expected to follow up with a post supporting the league sponsor. And so in meetings, our monthly meetings, we'll talk about stuff like that, and what's kind of coming up. This year, we actually created a group chat on Instagram between all the team handles, which is pretty fun. And so that relationship is growing. Honestly, the first couple years, we've actually, we've lost twice and then beat the team in the final the third time twice to win our national championships. And so to be honest with you, there's a bit of grudge, and I don't know how well people like us because we've been successful. But it's getting better. Actually, the Dallas team, they are one of our newer franchises. They're not going to play this year, but they're going to play next year. Some of their staff members were emailing me quite a bit asking for help, which I think is, I love to see, and I'm happy to help anybody. To the end of the day, we're trying to grow the game of rugby and grow the league. So if I can help Dallas do that, that's, in the end, people in Dallas are going to watch a Seawolves game, right? Because we're going to play Dallas. So if Dallas is doing well, that's going to end up doing, being positive for the Seawolves brand. So in years past, we haven't had as much interaction, but it's getting better. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited about that, and a little bit of playful banter back and forth. The fans love to see the teams interacting with one another.
Awesome. So we've got just a couple minutes left, and I see it's actually your last slide, but just in closing, what is your advice to our students? What can they be doing now if this looks and sounds like a job that they would be interested in pursuing after school?
Yeah, so Nicole, if you don't mind going up to the slide before this. Yeah, by the way, this is the most recent photo. Obviously, you can see my mask. Everything else is from previous seasons, but a couple of things. I think just raising your hand, saying yes to opportunities. I said yes to opportunities I didn't think were going to be valuable, and years down the line, I'm like, wow, I already did something like this, and it transferred over. When I got recruited to work at Seattle Children's, I did not think that I had any skin in the game to work in the medical industry, but I said yes to the opportunity and I challenged myself. And there was actually a ton of crossover between my work in marketing and business in the sport world to the medical and internal communication role that I'm in with them. So, just keep saying yes, raise your hand like you do in class, kind of keep doing that for opportunities, and, put me in coach kind of mentality. One of my favorite quotes that was given to me from one of my college professors is, as soon as you think you're good enough, you've just started your decline. So as soon as you think you've made it, you're it, that's when someone's going to maybe catch up to you. So, work to upskill yourself. If you're good at the social media, start doing a little bit, work on your graphic design. Or if you've, kind of peaked in your writing, how can you be better at voice interviews, stuff like that. So trying to diversify yourself can make you stand out in a hiring or opportunity situation. And then last but not least, believe in yourself. Like if you don't, who else will? You kind of show up and be confident in you, your authentic self, and just see where it can take you. I did not grow up planning to go to college. I came from a very poor family, and I lost my dad at a really young age, and my mom suffered from some alcoholism, and so I did not have a perfect childhood by any means. And I know a lot of kids are in the similar boat. So if you don't think college is for you, try and change that mindset, because it starts with you, and there's a lot of people out there willing to help you. So keep your chin up and keep going.
Yeah,
are there Oh, sorry, Amy, go ahead.
I was just say that is all really great advice, and I really appreciate it. And I think, Nicole, you're just about to ask if there are any final questions from our students. I don't have any in the chat right now, but if you have one that's burning, go ahead and throw it in there right now.
The other thing, Carly, I was wondering what classes, I know you don't know specifically what we have here outside of, marketing, graphic design, but what would you suggest that high school students take if it's available to them to prepare for maybe your major and or a career like yours?
Yeah, so I think I did DECA. I took a photography class. So any sort of like business, business is, even if that's not, you're not in a selling role, you learn how to sell and you learn how to talk about your brand or your product or whoever you're representing in a really positive manner, whether you're trying to sell somebody or not. So I would definitely recommend any sort of business classes in college. And I don't think it might not be in a high school option, but I took business law and sport law. And those are actually like really important, classes. There's a lot of things out there that, and unfortunately, like Americans apparently are really sue happy. That's like not like a thing that happens as often in other countries. And so making sure that you're protecting yourself and your brand and following, the like really bare minimum guidelines is important. And then I actually got the chance to, because I went to school and I knew what I wanted to do, because I took AP Psych and English. I wanted to say it was like 300. I took 2 classes that were a college classes or your running start as a senior. So like probably bare minimum as an AP setup. And that, because I knew what I wanted to do, that set me up to actually graduate a semester early. So I actually graduated in December of 2013 instead of May of 2014. And so that saved me some, time or some money. And I was able to move back here and continue playing rugby at that next step. So I think if you have a chance to take a college class and just get a taste for what that's going to be like, even if it's just one, I promise you it's credits. Credits are credits. So yeah, challenge yourself early if you're ready for it.
And I think we can probably wrap up with that. And Carly, thank you so much. That was amazing. And it's always great to see you.
Yeah, no, thank you both for having me. And, give us, if anyone's on here wants to, give us a follow on at Seawolves Rugby on our social media. And now you have a face to the name. And yeah, it's going to be a unique season going into trying to keep the guys healthy, both on and off the field.
All right.